Arena.
Let's walk the talk.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and really good to be back. It felt like an age that I was away, but really good to be back with you. The news cycle in South Africa never, ever stops. And as I've been saying, truth is stranger than fiction in this place. So lots to talk about and lots to delve into and unpack as well. It's 1 o'clock, time for Eyewitness News.
This is EWN.
Julius Malema and bodyguards' firearm case reserved, and ahead of new talks, Iran blames Europeans for nuclear deal collapse. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. We begin in the courts where judgment has been reserved in the case against EFF leader Julius Malema and his former bodyguard Adrian Snyman. The pair appeared before the East London Magistrates Court today where the defence and the state made final arguments. The two face several charges relating to discharging a firearm in public during the EFF's 5th anniversary celebrations at the Sisadu Kashe Stadium in Mdantsane in 2018. During proceedings today, a defence lawyer suggested a video showing Malema firing an automatic rifle into the air may have been manipulated using artificial intelligence. Tabiso Goba has more.
Shortly after the EFF's rally, a video surfaced online showing Adrian Snyman handing Julius Malema an automatic rifle, which the EFF leader excitedly fired into the air. At the heart of this case is whether that video is authentic. Advocate Shane Matthews, who's representing the bodyguard, says manipulation of the video through AI cannot be ruled out.
It is so easy for these type of videos to be manufactured and put onto social media. I'm not saying that this one was done like that, but what I'm saying is that before a court of law can rely on something like this is not the original video we are seeing. It's a video that's downloaded from social media.
Matthews says the state has not been able to verify the video by securing as witness the person who initially took it. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
We move to KwaZulu-Natal, where residents of the Kennedy Road informal settlement in Durban have started rebuilding after a fire ripped through the area. At the weekend, a large fire destroyed homes, leaving many residents out in the cold. A mother and her 1-year-old child were killed in the blaze. Nhlanhla Mabaso is there.
While some displaced residents here have started rebuilding their homes today, some say they need more intervention from government, pointing to permanent housing. This is the 4th large-scale fire to hit the community this winter season. Today, authorities are expected to update residents on relief measures. KZN Cooperative Governance spokesperson Senzelwe Mzila.
There's a number of interventions that the MEC will announce that the department is doing to help the affected families and also to mitigate these ongoing informal settlement fires that we continue to experience specifically in this area.
Preliminary reports indicate that over 120 shacks were destroyed, with 100 people housed at the nearest community shelter. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Kennedy Road in Durban.
Meanwhile, in the Eastern Cape, Land Reform and Rural Development Minister Mzanele Nyonso says he's working with traditional leaders in parts of the province in a bid to find land to house survivors of last month's devastating floods. The latest efforts come as the province continues to recover and rebuild following one of the worst floods in its history. More than 100 lives were claimed and thousands of residents displaced in the hardest hit areas. At least 40 children are among the fatalities. Nyonso met with Abatembu King Buyelekaya Dalindebo at his Enkunkulweni residence in Mthatha yesterday after the monarch raised concerns about government's delayed response in rehousing displaced families. Nyonso says parcels of land have been identified but still need the buy-in from local chiefs.
So I don't have any reason not to be confident if I'm talking to the owner of the land, because the king understands the plight of our people.
The Gauteng Health Department is continuing with registrations of ex-miners for benefits linked to diseases acquired during their work underground. The process in Ekurhuleni started this morning and will run until August 22nd after moving from the West Rand. The purpose of the project is to ensure that eligible ex-miners can receive benefits they may have missed and medical surveillance. The ailments covered in the plan include asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia and other lung-related diseases. Ex-miners are urged to visit the Telle Mokgerane Regional Hospital, the Bertha Qowa Hospital, Tambo Memorial Hospital, and Pulusong Hospital in Ekurhuleni to register. Provincial Department spokesperson Motale Mudiba.
To facilitate a smooth registration process, we advise those that are coming through to make sure that the ex-mine workers are able to bring their mine workers identity card, what they sometimes call makuluscope, their identity documents, and any relevant paperwork from their mining companies.
In the Middle East, Iran has blamed European powers for the failure of the 2015 nuclear deal, accusing them of breaking their commitments. This comes ahead of renewed talks in Istanbul with European powers to be held this week, a first since the U.S. attacked Iranian nuclear facilities. The 2015 deal, reached between Iran and the UN Security Council's permanent members, Britain, China, France, Russia and the United States, plus Germany, imposed curbs on Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. But it unraveled in 2018 when the U.S., during Donald Trump's first term as president, unilaterally withdrew from the accord and reimposed sweeping sanctions. The Europeans had pledged continued support for the deal, but the mechanism intended to offset American sanctions never materialized effectively, and many Western firms were forced to exit Iran, which has since faced a deepening economic crisis. Gold's trading at $3,366.94 an ounce. The rand's at 17.73 to the dollar, at 23.88 to the pound, at 20.66 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $68.98 a barrel.
Heading into the Joburg CBD in the Amalgam area, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on Main Reef Road, approaching Church Street due to faulty traffic lights. There's also slow-moving traffic. This is driving through Bedford View on the N3 northbound between the Inlands Interchange and the Geldenes Interchange, and also slow-moving traffic in the Melrose area on the M1 southbound. This is approaching Ethel Oaklands.
Look at your weather. It's a partly afternoon in Gauteng today, and temperatures have peaked at highs between 16 and 18 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour: judgment has been reserved in the case against EFF leader Julius Malema and his former bodyguard Adrian Snyman.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. Choose the 8 kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4 kilometer for families and first timers in 702's Walk the Talk. Tickets on primemediaplus.com.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
It's 8 minutes past 1 o'clock on this Monday afternoon. Thank you very much for tuning in to Talk Radio 702. My name's Kabazela, standing in for Relebogile this afternoon, who is in Paris. I see, I looked at her photos, and she is eating the baguettes and sipping on champagne by the Eiffel Tower and having a really, really good time. I think it's part of her 40 things before 40, if I'm not mistaken. So she'll be back next week. And you'll have me on your radio for the next couple of days. So hopefully you'll be listening, you'll be tuning in, you'll be standing by, holding my hand, and taking us through this week together. Because as you know, we can't do these radio shows without your participation and your communication with us. So look forward to chatting to you today and the rest of the week. Listening to the EWN news there with Maki Malapo. The judgment has been reserved in the case against EFF leader Julius Malema and his former bodyguard Adrian Snyman. And I see the defense lawyer suggesting that the video showing Malema firing an automatic rifle into the air may have been manipulated using artificial intelligence. Sure, I mean, I think that's a stretch too far. I have seen that video, and it does not look like artificial intelligence to my layperson's eye. And the video was taken from somebody in the back of the stage who was obviously part of the entourage, whoever is there. You don't just get backstage at an EFF rally and say, let's take a video of this. So yeah, I wonder if that will stick, if it is enough to put doubt into the mind of the judge in terms of coming up with a judgment on that one. But we'll see. I mean, yeah, artificial intelligence in videos. Maybe that CEO who was at the Coldplay concert, he should have used that excuse. That wasn't me. We weren't hugging. I was just standing behind my HR director. But yeah, it's too late for him, eh?
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
10 minutes past 1. So before we get into what's coming up on the show, there's something I wanted to chat to you about this afternoon and get your thoughts. Now, for the online registrations for grade 1 and grade 8, that goes live on Tuesday. So if it's the first time you're registering to go to grade 1 and to high school, you need to register online and go through that portal, and hopefully things will go smoothly. There have been some challenges in the past with those systems, but that opens on Thursday. And it got me thinking about schools. And a tweet that I came across, and this tweet from this woman on X, she basically said that her child used to go to a private school, and she had to make a decision because of costs that she had to remove her child from the private school and put the child into a government public school. And excuse me, her response to this move was very positive. She said that she was completely surprised at how well and efficiently it was run, the teacher's attention to detail. Obviously, the costs would be one. There's always a big difference in the cost. But her overall impression was really, really positive. And then I looked at the comments, and there were many people doing the same. So moving children from private schools into government schools. And I wanted to know if that is your situation. Have you been in that situation where you've had to move your bundle of joy from a private school into a government school? And what was the reasons for you for doing that? And what have your observations been? Have they been positive? Are you happy with the move? Or do you still long for the private school? Because, education is very, very important, especially foundation education is very important. And you can make the generalization to say that, according to the stats and the pass rates, private schools do better than some of the government schools. But maybe you just have no choice and you have to do government schools, and there's some very, very good government schools out there. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you done that? Have you downgraded from a private school, so to speak, to a government school? Or have you gone from government school to private school, and what's your observations been there? I'd love to get your thoughts on that one this afternoon. 011 883 0702. And if you want to send us a WhatsApp, you can send it on 072 702 1702. I'd love to get your thoughts on that one this afternoon. Please do interact with us. Otherwise, I'm going to be mumbling on here for the next 15 minutes or so. But Mr. Jali, Karabu Jali, is in the studio with me. You went to a private boys' school, right?
Well, I went to private school all my life, from grade 1 all the way to grade 12. Okay. And I don't know any experience of government school.
Yeah.
But I have to say, from the experience that I had, because I usually went to like religious-based private schools, because I think there's a difference when you talk about private schools. There's religious-based where there's discipline, there's ethics, and the sports is invested and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there's just general private schools. I don't want to name names, but like kind of fly-by-night and your standard, we don't know where they're going kind of private schools. So you have to do your research as a parent. So my parents did a lot of research on which schools I go to. I remember I went to St. Catherine's Primary School, and then I went to CBC High School, Boksburg, but then it got too expensive for my parents. And then they were like, what now? And then I took it upon myself to look for another private school that is much cheaper so I can negotiate with my parents, because I really didn't want to go to a government school.
So you wanted to stay in the private school.
And that whole system, private school, because I thought I was treated well there. I could gel well. I met people from different backgrounds, like wealthy kids. My dad was just working as a clerk at a company, and then you had kids who their parents are surgeons, they're doctors, CEOs. So you got to mingle and jingle with people who outside your class,
yes.
if you could get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that for me, it worked. Even now in my adulthood, I get to, I still
So
have
would
that.
you say it set you up pretty decently? Maybe
Most definitely.
compared to some of the friends that you had that
Yes,
maybe went to a government school.
Yes, even like just the teacher student ratio.
Yeah.
I looked at other schools. I remember I went to Queens when my dad was like, go look for a school for yourself. One of the schools that I checked before I went to grade 11 and 12 was Queens High. And I got there, I was like, hell no, I am not going to be in one class with so many kids.
Yes.
So with us, it was just like 15 max.
Yeah.
And then you go to a public school, there's like 20, 25, 30. And it's like, no way, how am I going to get the teacher's attention if I'm struggling?
Yeah.
So private schools are good for that. But my kid, funny enough, he goes to a public school because that's all I can afford right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I'm actually quite impressed. There's some things that are missing, but then the teacher's commitment and effort is showing, The lacking stuff is that obviously the funds are not enough. So there's other infrastructure that my kid is not privileged to have access to that I had in a public school because there every parent paid. Here you've got missing funds. Some parents are under subsidy. What do you call exemption from government? So there's not enough funds to actually make those things.
Make a big difference in some of the schools. Yeah,
definitely. But otherwise, education-wise, my son is doing well. The teachers are committed. They're doing all their best, and I don't feel like he has to be in a private school. But if I had the money, most definitely I would take him to Merritt's Brothers College.
Without a doubt.
No, shadow of doubt.
All right, that's Mr. Jali. Thanks so much for your comments there. What are your thoughts? I mean, growing up, did you go to a government school and then, move to a private school? What were your thoughts on that? Did you enjoy the move? Did you experience different things, different let's call it cultures and social classes as well at these schools? I mean, I must say, I remember when I was in primary school, I went to government primary and government high school, went to Ridgevale Primary and to Westridge High on the West Rand. And there was a visit from Grey College Bloem, who came to the primary school when I was in Standard 5, grade 7 now. And they were telling us about this great college, and I was really excited about it. I was like, I could really see myself going there. The sports seemed amazing, the education seemed amazing, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, it came down to finances, and I ended up where I was. And I'm pretty fine with that, the education that I got. I was maybe a bit lazy, so I could have done a little bit better at school. But in terms of my education, it was fine. But I mean, things now, what are your thoughts? Would you sacrifice everything you have just to put your child through a private school? Or are you saying, you know what, there's some really, really good government schools out there, and I'm going to stick with those ones. And, here are the pros, here are the cons. What are the pros and cons for you? I'd love to hear those this afternoon. 011 883 0702 and on WhatsApp 072 702 1702. Let's take a listen to one or two of the voice notes and then we'll chat further.
Yay, it's Kabazela on my radio. Instead of only 5 minutes on all the other shows, I have a whole 2 hours of your delicious conversation, sense of humor, and your way of looking at the world. Thank you, Kabazela, for today and the rest of the week. Yay!
Oh, that was very nice. Thank you. Some people say, geez, 5 minutes is enough. Limit him to 5 minutes. But here we are for 2 hours today and the rest of the week. I see we got a message here from Tracy. She said, I went from fancy St. Andrew's School for girls in Danelin College. Quite a culture shock, but lots of fun with all the guys. Oh, okay, yeah. So she went from a private school to a co-ed school, which was quite a shock. I mean, that's a whole different ball game, right? From a all girls or all boys school to a co-ed school. That's a complete culture shock, I would imagine. Let's take a call from Nonnie from Joburg. How are you doing this afternoon, Nonnie?
Very well, Jonathan.
Good.
I just want to say something about people that think that taking their children to private schools, they think that there's an advantage over the ones that are going that go to state government schools.
Yeah.
It's not the case. It's not the case. We have people who went to village schools. Look at Professor Marwala, where he is today. He's the professor at UJ. Now they like somewhere in Italy or something. Huge. You know what? I can give lots and lots of examples. If people going to private schools, model schools, yes, the English is better, and that's it. That's it. But the quality of everything else, people must never be under the impression that township schools or black schools, home schools in the villages, they are, what can I say? The quality is below standard. That's not the case. I gave you just an example of Professor Marwala.
Yeah.
He used to be the vice chancellor at UJ.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you make such a good point, Nani, and that's a perception that a lot of people have. I mean, they would say like, oh, if I have kids, I'm only going to send them to private school and I'll save every last penny to send them to private school. But, I mean, there are some really, really good government schools as well, and that's one thing we mustn't ignore. And like I was saying, with that tweet that I read, she was very surprised and she wishes that she had made the move sooner from private to government.
And we also, another example, we also have, the professor, university, the professor at University of Pretoria, the guy who invented he's an ENT, something.
Yes,
He's
yes.
also a professor. They went to schools in Venda, the village. People, yes, they speak good English, but they work in shops. They work in shops. You know what, Karabo? You must drop that mentality. Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right, Nani, thanks very much for your call. Let's go to Chief Makanya, also calling us from Joburg. Good afternoon to you, Chief Makanya.
Good afternoon, my brother. Good show as usual.
Thank you. What's on your mind?
As you state, stated well that there are good schools and government schools. There are good government institutions. But we are not talking about the quality of education here. If you go to like Hilton, you go to Hilton College.
Yeah.
The amount of network that you are going to boast about for your future, the people that you are going to grow up with, the people that you are going to call your friends, that will have your most intimate situations in your life. Are people that you would not meet in a government institution. So if you have the money, it is worth it. If you have the will and you can survive and you say, I would take everything and put my child in there, you will never go wrong. But for a person who is really in a situation, rather find a good school. There are brilliant government schools. Find a government institution, and they would. I mean, many people went to private schools. I mean, government schools, and I mean, Uncle Whitey Passon went to a public school, and look at what he's done to Checkers. So it's really not about the quality if you look hard enough. So, but
it's about applying yourself.
Private schools give you an opportunity, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And you make a very valid point about the private schools in terms of the networks that you got and the old boys clubs that are still around and that you can, tap into in terms of business ideas or corporate, opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. So that is, I'd probably say, a really good positive with regards to the private schools. Chief, thanks so much for joining us. All right, have a good afternoon. Let's go to Jay from Pretoria. Hello, Jay.
Good afternoon. I'd like to know, do universities have a stat, right, that shows in the first year pass rate, what's the pass rate of kids that come out of a private school, kids that come out of a Model T school, and kids that come out of a normal, let's call it government suburban school? Is there some type of stat to show, look, the pass rate among, it's the same, or it doesn't really matter, or yes, we do have a better pass rate from private schools? Do universities have such a stat, or do they do something like that?
That's a good question, Jay. I'm not sure about that. We'd maybe have to put in a call to Wits or UJ and ask them if they even track those stats. Or maybe if you are listening and you're involved in the education sector, if you've got some insight into that, please do give us a call. But that's a good question, Jay. I wonder, I mean, off the top of your head, what would you say the sort of the stats are? Would you say that more private would pass at university than government?
It's interesting to note, right? Why? In the sense that if it shows that there's a better pass rate here, there, or wherever, then it shows which is better than the other.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you could also look at it. Yeah. I mean, the stat maybe you could look at is university exemptions versus private and public schools. So, I mean, that would probably be one of the big things to look at in terms of the number of university exemptions. But yeah, it's a good question, Jay. Thanks so much for calling.
Thanks.
Let's take a listen to one or two voice notes and we'll go to more of the calls. I see Salati and Temba, you holding on. We'll be with you right now.
Hi, Gabazela. Flores here from the Western Cape.
Hey,
yeah,
Florence.
not actually me personally, but my daughter. She had to take out her child from a private school because of loss of income. And let me tell you, she is happy. Even though there were extracurriculum classes after school and it helped her child a lot with social skills. But yeah, there's an aftercare, NGO base, and the child just attends that. And his marks hasn't dropped. He's 85 to 90% boy, and he's doing great. Yeah, wish he could have done that earlier. He would have saved so much. And I could have bought myself more chocolates because I had to support her. Have a good job. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Yeah.
Hi, Kabazela.
Hi.
I don't have money, but I'm keeping my 2 kids at the private school. There's peace of mind. If you don't need to register, for this grade 1 and grade 8 process, I'm not stressed. The classes are small. My children, there's no bullies or dysfunctional families. So no, I don't have money, but I'm paying for private school. It's the best for me and my kids.
Yeah, good. I mean, each to own owns. I mean, I don't think that private schools are, all that they are made out to be. I'm sure there are many issues that take place in some of those schools. Yes, the education may be different, the teachers or whatever it may be, but I'm sure there's some major issues that take place in some of the private schools as well. If you've got any thoughts on that, do let us know. 072 702 1702. Let's go to the lines and chat to Temba from Pretoria. Hey, Temba, how you doing?
Well, and you, Kabazela.
Yeah, I'm well, thanks, Temba.
My 2 cents worth on this, my brother, is that the odds when you are when your child is at a government school, your odds are against you far more than when your child is in a private school. One is that the culture also in the.
Ooh, Temba, just turn around a bit. You're breaking up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you at culture.
Schooling. I can tell you that you'll find that in a government school, there's more teenage pregnancies than in a private school. There's more introduction to the world of work than in a government school. I myself, I am a product of a government school, but I would not take my child there. I would still strive that up until a certain level of our government schools are up, then only can we then say we can be able to compare. But I can tell you, if your child is at a government school, the odds are definitely against them.
All right, Temba, nice one. Thanks for your call. I mean, I suppose with the public schools, government schools, we need to identify those really good schools and use them as case studies as to why they are doing well. Is it because parents are more involved? Is it, the specific areas that they are in? I don't know. It would be good to see a study in terms of what the benchmark is for a good public school and then try and adopt that across the country. Hey? Let's take a look at some of the WhatsApps coming through. We've got Lerato. Hi, Jono. I think it's all about what I can afford. For now, my kids are in a very good public school, and I don't think they are missing out on anything because very often the private school fees don't include the other experiences like overseas trips that I wouldn't be able to afford. I think that would be more damaging to my kids' self-esteem. So that's Lerato in Centurion. Let's see another one here from... our daughter was moved from a private school to public school in Krugersdorp. We moved her because of the attitude of the kids in the private school. The kids had an entitled attitude that we did not want our child to pick up. She's thriving in the government school. So, those are good stories, and there's lots of these good stories about the government and public schools. But right now, it's 1:30 in time for the EWN News.
Thanks, Jonathan. Good afternoon. We begin in the courts where the mother of slain 11-year-old Jaden Lee Meek is continuing her bid for bail in the Roodepoort Magistrates Court. Today, Tiffany Meek wants to be released, arguing that she's being framed for her child's murder. The state is opposing bail, saying it would not be in the interest of justice for Meek to be released. Investigating Officer Ncebo Diko has taken to the stand today, providing some details of the evidence gathered. Staying in the courts, there's been yet another delay in the Senzo Meyiwa trial. This time, it's linked to cushion pads on leg irons worn by the accused. One of the accused, Mtobi Simngube, was delayed after refusing to be brought to court without the cushions on his legs, saying he was in pain. The trial was meant to resume today with the state's case. And in the U.S., immigration attorneys have bemoaned the conditions of 3 Florida facilities, saying prisoners are treated inhumanely. This follows a report published today that found that migrants at Miami Immigration Jail were shackled with their hands tied behind their bags and made to kneel and eat food from styrofoam plates. At the Chrome North service in West Miami, female prisoners were made to use toilets in full view of men being held there, and they're being denied access to showers and adequate food. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 2 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you're traveling through Edenvale heading towards Germiston, there's slow-moving traffic. That's in the Bedford View on the N3 southbound between Linksfield Road and the Geldenes interchange. Also coming from Boksburg, Edenvale heading towards Bedford View, slow-moving traffic. R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Kilulis interchange. And there's also bumper-to-bumper traffic that's leaving Riverley heading into the Joburg CBD on Main Reef Road between Nazareth and the M2 due to faulty traffic lights at Church Street. We also have traffic lights still not working in Rand Park Ridge at Bears, Nodia and the N1 North. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The South African Future Trust Awards are returning, made possible through funding by Oppenheimer Generations. The 3 million rand in prizes recognizes top entrepreneurs across the following 6 categories: top tech entrepreneur, top social entrepreneur, top youth entrepreneur, top woman in business, most innovative idea, optimized operating model, OOM Impact Award. Entries close on the 31st of July. Submit your application now at www.awards.southafricanfuturetrust.org. Winners will be announced at the 2025 South African Future Trust Summit taking place in November at the Sandton Convention Centre. Limited early bird tickets are available for 900 Rand. Get yours now in partnership with 702.
At Bright, we don't just provide business insurance, we insure your business's
future success.
Because your business is so much more than desks and computers and equipment, which is why we use our specialist expertise to tailor solutions for each client differently to ensure what's really important. So insure your businesses.
Financial security, BT.
With Bright today. Contact your broker or go to brightinsure.co.za to find out more. Bright. Approach risk with purpose. Bright is a licensed insurer and authorized FSP.
PG Glass Repair, PG Glass Replace.
Hi, I'm Komoto, PG Glass Technician and winner of Belron's 2024 Best Repair Technician. If clarity is clear to see, that's what we're all about. Keeping your windscreen clear from chips and cracks. And if we must replace, we fit only the best windscreens. Shutterproof. That's PRUFE.
Get a PG Glass today for quality, reliability, and peace of mind. Call 0860 030303 today.
And they're off. Little too young, barely two, racing injured. Here comes whipped into shape, running on pain. Duct tape dreams on the outside, tongue-tied and terrified. And now discarded Glory, limping to avoid the glue truck. It's beaten again, crop flying, lungs bleeding. And it's doped up Glory, gets it by a nose. Now that's racing.
Cruelty is staining horse racing. The NSPCA is calling for the industry to sign their racing code of conduct. Show your support at nspca.co.za/Rein in the Pain.
Looking for real ways to live greener? Then don't miss Green Tip of the Week, your weekly dose of sustainable inspiration. From eco-entrepreneurs to climate champions, we sit down with the people making real change. Catch Green Tip of the Week every Tuesday on Afternoon Drive with John Pillman, 3 to 6 p.m. Only on 702, brought to you by Volvo. It's safe to be brave with Volvo.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
25 minutes to 2. If you've just joined us, it's Kabazela in for Relebogile Mabotja. And we were talking about a tweet that I saw with regards to a woman who took her child out of private school and into a public school and was completely surprised and had only positive things to say. And we've been asking you this afternoon about your experiences, whether you did the same thing or you did the other way, where you went from public to private. And so many of you have been sending in your voice notes and your WhatsApps, and thank you for those. Really, really appreciate you interacting with the show. We got Salati on the line from Joburg. Hey, Salati.
Hi, Kabazela. How are you? Thank you for the week. All
Good.
good?
Yeah, I'm well. Yourself?
Awesome. I can't
Good.
complain.
Good,
So
good.
I would like to respond to Noni.
Yes.
And then before I respond to her, I would like to concur with Temba about if you got the money, take your kids to private school. The reason for that is the facilities, number one, sports, number two, the door those schools open for the kids is incomparable to any government school or public school. Yes, we've got committed teachers in private in government school, and government school, there are some committed teachers. Or kudos to them. But we find that our counter-African kids are busy standing in street corners, going to schools on Saturdays, while kids in private school are playing hockey, rugby. Why do you think they end up being in the cricket protest team? Why do you think they end up in the Maboko teams and so on? We don't have those opportunities. In any event, I went to a private school. I just think that private schools sometimes we are entitled, unnecessarily so. I call it kindergarten for young adults. It's really kindergarten for young adults. To answer Noni.
Yeah.
There's a school in Venda.
Yeah.
And the professor's name that she was looking for is Professor Chifularo, the ENT surgeon.
Yes.
He went to, if I'm not mistaken, Milu. It's one of the best schools in Toyando that focuses on mathematics. I'm not taking 40%, 30%, 35% pass rate that these ministers are talking about. I'm talking about high caliber science and math teachers that teach those kids in Toyando and to be the best they can be in those two fields. Yes, and then I want to answer the one gentleman who asked a very pertinent question about which students succeed at first year level between kids from private school and government schools.
Yes.
I find that kids from privileged backgrounds often drop out.
So kids from privileged backgrounds, would be
often
private schools.
Private schools, yes, they often drop out. So when we went to varsity first year, the professors would say there'll be like 5,000, 1,000 kids in varsity, right?
Mm.
Because you're used to those small 15-person classrooms as opposed to your 20 kids classroom. You get there, the teachers or the professors say, look around you, turn your head to the left, to the right, look behind you. By the time you finish final year, there'll only be so much or 100 people who will finish your degree. And it's true.
Yeah. Sure.
Anyway.
All right. Well, I had a lot to say there, Salati. Thank you. Appreciate you calling in there. That's Salati from Johannesburg. Well, I mean, so many comments here that I can't get through, and I thank you for all of them. I'll read one more here from Deneo. Hey, Jonathan, my little ones go to an Afrikaans government school, and let me tell you, they get the equivalent of private school. It's the best decision I've ever made. So many more. I mean, and the point goes at the end of the day, you as a child or sending your child to a private school, you're no guaranteed success. They've still got to apply themselves, and then hopefully they will move on to bigger and better things. And the same for government school. If your children are at a government school, they know less than somebody who goes to a private school. If you apply yourself in this world, you can make something of yourself.
Good afternoon, Ray.
Ray.
Well. I went to school called Chile, it's a primary school in Soweto. Then went to Lenasia. But then if I were to take my kids to a school, I think St. Maurice Davis, it's up there. If I had a little one, I would take them there. I would definitely take them there. You know what I mean? I think somehow that whole thing gives you an edge, you know what I mean? So it's one of those.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, and really, really appreciate your comments. There's lots more here. Maybe we can play a little bit more just after the 2 p.m. news. But coming up shortly, we're going to be chatting to Phil Mpela. He's the entertainment correspondent for the show. We're going to talk about movies and what to stream. After that, we're going to have a chat with Gabby Brondani, our travel writer and travel correspondent, about traveling to Asian countries and Asian Travel 101. And then we'll let you know a little bit about some of the 2 o'clock and the 2:30 interviews coming up shortly.
702 Movies.
Good afternoon, Phil. Really nice to chat to you as always on a Monday. Are you doing good today?
I'm great, Kapazala. How are you?
I'm super duper. Thank you so much. Very good to be here. So let's see what you have been looking at. I mean, and before we touch base on the Simon Sabela TV and Film Awards. What are you guys streaming at the moment? What's on your Netflix, your Prime, your Showmax accounts? What do you can't wait to sit down on the couch at night and watch? Currently, I'm streaming Lost. Can you believe it? That show from years ago. And it's really, really entertaining. So I'd love to hear what you are streaming at this point in time. Do let us know, 072 702 1702. Phil, the Simon Mabunu Sabela Film and Television Awards is an annual South African awards ceremony that recognizes outstanding achievements and excellence within the South African film and television industry. Tell us a little bit about these awards, what's so special, and who were some of the winners?
Yeah, so these are the regional awards that are happening in KZN. So they specifically celebrate projects and talent that's coming from that province. So they are a regional award recognition platform. So they are on their 12th edition, which happens over the weekend. July in KZN is designated as a film month. So there are a lot of film-related things that are happening in KZN, including the Durban Film Festival, as well as now the Simon Sabela Awards. So the 12th edition happens this Saturday. And it was an incredible event. I think the biggest winner at the event was a film called Disaster Holiday, which is directed by Retabile Ramaphakela. So they scooped 4 major awards at the ceremony on Saturday, which is Best Pan-African Film, Best Feature Film, Best Production Design, and Best Use of KZN as a film location. But for me, the highlight of the event obviously was to honor an incredible man, Angus Gibson, who is somebody who is very synonymous with storytelling in South Africa. He's the guy who's behind shows like Yizo Yizo, and now the biggest show in the country, Shaka Ilembe. He's doing that. So he was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award, and it was well long overdue. And I was very excited to be part of the audience that got to witness such a milestone in our industry.
Oh, wonderful. So, I mean, there's so many TV awards. In terms of awards, does this one rank up there as a very prestigious award?
Yeah, I mean, there aren't any regional awards that get any recognition per se. So these are the only ones that are specifically, designated for a province within South Africa. They're not like your SAFTAs, which are now a national recognition thing.
Yeah.
So they're very big, and the fact that they happen at the same time as the Durban Film Festival, which has now become one of the most globally and recognized festivals. I think we can give them that. We can say that they are very big.
Okay, good. And you were there to witness it all, Mr.
Yeah,
Mpela.
I was very proud to be there. Like I said, the Angus Gibson moment was the cherry on top for me.
Yeah, I mean, I did hear an interview with him not too long ago on the Clement Manyathela show, and he sounds like a really, really remarkable guy. And if you want to listen to that, it's on the Prime Media Plus app. Just go search Clement and Angus Gibson, and it'll come up there in the search box. Now, let's look at some of the stuff that you have picked out to stream. Soon Comes Night on SABC One. What's this about?
Yes, our listeners who are actually television viewers will recognize that name, because this is not actually even a new series. It's a series that was first aired on Netflix early in January this year. So it looks like SABC has now gotten the rights to broadcast the film. It's called Soon Come Night. It's a story about, an ANC freedom fighter who returns home after being in exile for a while, to find that, the country that he hopes that has changed is now very corrupt, and he wants a piece of the pie. But instead of just being part of the solution that solves the problem that is not living up to the expectations of our new freedom, he now decides to use his skills to be a criminal himself. So it's a very, very interesting social commentary kind of film. Action film is a local film. A lot of local performers are there, but the lead actors are Kwezo Ngobo and Albert Pistorius. They are the leads on this. It's 6 episodes. So on Netflix, there were 6 episodes. You could stream all of them at once. With the SABC, they are spread out within 6 weeks. I think there's only 1 week where they are going to skip it. But yeah, for the next 6 weeks, from the 21st of July, you can watch the 6th episode of Soon Comes Night.
So let's give it a Mpela rating. Out of 5, what would you give it?
I'll give it a solid 7.
A 7 out of 5? Wow.
Yeah.
That good. Okay.
It's good by South African standard.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very good. International standard, the 7 it's enough.
Okay, nice one. So that
Right.
Soon Comes Night. It's probably still available on Netflix, but if you don't have that,
it is still available. So yeah, for those who wants to stream all episodes at once, they're still available right now on Netflix as well.
Brilliant. Let's look at the next one here, Sabbatical, and this is on Prime Video.
Yes, so we're staying in the local film industry here. So this is Sabbatical. Sabbatical is a film by a young filmmaker called Karabo Lidikga. Lidikga's surname might be familiar to listeners. It's what's his name? Now the name is gone. Kagiso Lidikga, the comedian who turned into now an international filmmaker.
Yeah,
is the brother to Karabo. So this is Karabo's film. It's called Sabbatical, and it's about a successful young lady who, because of certain circumstances, ends up having to go home to hometown, where the mother is still there, but the mother is very overbearing. And it's essentially, for me, I would say that it's a sort of a dark comedy that explores the mother-daughter relationship, class, ambition, and sort of a cultural expectation, things like black tax and all of that. I don't want to say too much about it so that I don't give away anything, but it's very interesting. It's not that simple. So there's some surprises in there, but it's a story that a lot of us, especially us Black South Africans, will recognize. But it's a universal story, where kids grow up. They go to university, they go start their own lives, and then sometimes circumstances bring them back home. But by the time they get back home, things have changed, and it's that dynamic between the parents that raise this child and the child's expectation and the disappointment. So it's a very interesting film. It's available on Amazon Prime Video right now.
Nice, sounds good. That's Sabbatical. And if we give it a Mpela rating out of 5, what's your rating?
Out of 5, I would give it a 4.
4 out of 5. Okay, so these ones are scoring big.
Clementine Musimane is amazing on this. I mean, Mona Munyane leads it very well, but I think for me the performance that really stands out is Clementine Musimane opposite Siputla Sebogedi. So that's why I'm giving it a 4.
Nice. Okay, and the next one is an oldie but a goodie. I loved it until towards the end of the seasons, the series. I kind of lost interest. But Shameless, the US version, not the UK version.
Yes. Look, I love this show.
Yeah.
It was very popular. I think it ran between 2011 and 2021 in the US. All 11 seasons, for those of you who love the show, are now available on Netflix. So you can stream all 11 seasons of the show. So what is Shameless about? Shameless is about this Chicago family, the US version that is.
Yes.
It's about the Chicago family that is very dysfunctional and, has the kids have to deal with this alcoholic father played by William H. Macy. He's amazing. So this show also introduced the world to Jeremy Allen White, who is now very popular because of the show called The Bear. So the British version ran from 2004 to 2013, and it stars David Threlfall, I think that's his last name, but he's a very well-known British actor of stage and cinema. If I had to choose between both, I would say I would choose the British one.
Would you?
Yeah,
You'd pick the British one over the US version.
I know, but I have a soft spot for British, television and all that. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the British version immensely. I think American comedy can be a bit too on the nose sometimes. I love the cleverness of how the scripts are written in Britain. But that's just me. I've seen both of them, love both of them. So if you want to see Shameless, it's available. The US version, that is available right now on Netflix, all 11 series.
And the Impala rating for Shameless, the US version on Netflix, what would you give it?
Solely based on William H. Macy's performance as Frank Gallagher, it gets a 9.
A 9, yeah. I mean, Frank Gallagher is super talented in that. He's the actor. William H. Macy is so good in that series. You think it's a real person. But he's a despicable guy, and you also can't help but like him sometimes. That's what I struggled with.
That's the thing.
But love it. Phil, thanks so much, and we'll chat to you again soon next week, Monday. That's Phil Impela live on your radio with movies and what to stream.
Time to review my favorite employee, my F&B Gold business account. You give me thousands of potential customers by listing my business on Nav Marketplace and access to Guard Me, a bodyguard for cash drops, locking up. No other card does this. If you weren't a bank card, I'd give you a raise.
The F&B Gold business account. No other card works harder for your business because your safety is worth it. F&B, help changes everything. T's and C's apply. F&B, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider.
From 24 to 27 July, Decorex Joburg returns to the Sandton Convention Center, now spanning 5 halls. Explore over 300 brands, shop exclusive show specials, and discover the latest in interiors, kitchens, bathrooms, and luxury finishes. Experience live interactive demos, expert-led talks, and the Handmade Africa Design Market. There's something for every style, space, and home. Book your tickets now at decorex.co.za or at the door.
The team's on a roll today. Let me focus on payroll. Duty calls in the kitchen. That's why I have a business insurer that is agile and on the ball all the time on all things. I chose My Way Business Insurance, getting 24/7 emergency service and saving on my premiums, plus my business assist to handle my admin.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
702.
Travel.
Asia Travel 101. Have you gone to any of the Asian countries? How was your experience? Was it easy to plan your trip, or did you go through a travel agent who did it all for you? And if you're planning on going, where are you planning on going? I, on my bucket list for next year, have to go to Thailand. I need to experience Thailand before I get too old and grumpy. So I need to go and experience some of Thailand with the missus next year. But on the line to chat to us about Asia Travel 101 is Gabby Brondani, our writer and travel correspondent. Afternoon to you, Gabby, and how are you doing? Are you there, Gabs? Let's push the button.
Hello,
there we
can you
go.
hear me?
Yeah, how you doing?
Good, thanks, and you?
Good. So, traveling to Asia, you're going to help us exactly with what to do, when to go, visa requirements, etc., etc. So let's start with Thailand, shall we?
Thailand. I'm with you on that. Thailand is definitely on the bucket list for 2026. From a beach holiday perspective, an island perspective, if you're into jungles, there's just so much that Thailand does offer. So you've of course got your the golden temples in Chiang Mai. You've got the bustling chaos of Bangkok. You've got the pristine beaches of Krabi. Northern Thailand, of course, very rich in terms of forests and mountains and jungles. While down south, you've got your iconic beaches. I think most of us have seen the pictures, those beautiful island escapes off the western Andaman coast. So in terms of practicalities for traveling to Thailand, the ideal time to go is between November through to February, when the weather is a bit cooler and dry, and it does coincide with South Africa's holiday season if you do take time off over December. The one tip for Thailand is, depending on where you are going in Thailand and depending on when you're going to go, just take a look for monsoon season. So a lot of the time you'll find a lot of the really, really good packages for Thailand might be in monsoon season. It doesn't mean that you're going to have a terrible time and it's going to rain all day, every day. Sometimes the monsoon, it's like a big downpour for a little bit, and then it's good for the rest of the day. So just do your research in terms of the weather for that season.
Okay, visa requirements. Do South Africans need a visa?
No, so this is also why Thailand is so popular for travelers from South Africa, is that we don't need a visa if we're traveling for less than 60 days, which is great.
Wow, okay, that's fantastic, because getting a visa sometimes can be a bit of a schlep. And then in terms of getting there, you know, are there direct flights, or do you recommend a stopover? I suppose that also comes down to budget, hey?
Budget, yes. Direct flights, more often than not, you are going to pay more for direct flights because you are paying for convenience. As far as I know, I don't think there are direct flights from South Africa to Thailand, but the shorter routes are if you take Singapore Airlines with a stopover in Singapore, or with Emirates via Dubai. So those are two of the more popular routes. Again, as you mentioned, also check on budget dependency as well.
Okay, and another popular destination is Vietnam.
Yes, so Vietnam offers such an irresistible mix of ancient culture, also bustling city life, and just the most iconic scenery. You've got the mountains, the rice paddies. You've also got the white beaches, the jungles, the waterfalls, just something so incredible. Sometimes with Vietnam, a lot of people are a little bit hesitant because they aren't sure where to start. You want to find a trusted tour guide, or perhaps book a preset package. One of the popular ones, you've got Trafalgar's Highlights of Vietnam. You can do a 12-day journey spanning the country's must-see spots. So you can go from cruising Ha Long Bay to Hoi An, to visiting the imperial city of Hue, and just also meandering along the Mekong Delta. So yeah, if you aren't sure where to start planning for Vietnam, those pre-packaged tours with trusted providers are a great start.
And then the best time to go to Vietnam?
So the dry season falls between January and May, with March and April usually offering the best weather across most of the country.
Okay. Abs, we got a comment here from one of our listeners, or a question from Yaya. He says, does Gabby recommend an organized tour or a DIY type experience where you book everything yourself? I'm always worried about being ripped off by taxi drivers, etc., etc. What are your thoughts on that, Gabs?
So it's actually a really good question. I think it just depends on the type of person and the type of travel that you do enjoy. Of course, your pre-packaged tours, first of all, make sure you are booking with a trusted and credible tour provider. So some of the more popular ones that I trust completely, you've got your Trafalgars, you've got your Cost Savers, your Inside Vacations, all of those. Do some Googling of the different tour providers and make sure that they are legit. Going the pre-packaged routes, it's of course a lot more convenient. It saves you hassles, it saves you headaches. You literally just have to show up and your itinerary is set with a tried and trusted tour guide. Some people do love the DIY thing. They enjoy planning the routes themselves, and they enjoy everything from start to finish of making the holiday their own. So again, it just depends completely on what your preferred travel style is.
Okay.
But yeah, they both have their benefits.
Good. And then, Gabs, let's look at the last one here quickly. Japan. Also looks like such an amazing place to visit.
Japan looks incredible, and it's one of those bucket list destinations that a lot more South Africans are traveling to. So many first-time visitors focus on the golden route of going from Tokyo and Kyoto and Osaka, while Japan is very safe and convenient to explore on your own. Again, organized tours do help in this sense, particularly where language and communication may be a little bit of a barrier. It definitely helps from that perspective. So again, you've got your cost savers. They've got a Japan Discovery Tour, which is a 10-day guided tour. So yeah, saves you all the hassles. They'll take you to all of the top spots. In terms of when to go, a lot of travelers choose to go over cherry blossom season.
Beautiful, yeah.
In March and April. But the autumn months from September to November also offer really pleasant weather and fewer crowds. And it's also really good to know if you are going in the autumn, that's usually shoulder season. So you are likely to get better rates on flights, accommodation and everything else.
Lovely. Gabs, there's so much more. I mean, we had Indonesia as well. But if people want to, read up a little bit more, where can we go to get some information that you put out?
So they can find me on @Gabby Brondani on social media, or else if you're just looking for general travel advice, you've got your TripAdvisors. It's great forums as well, and Lonely Planet. It's a great free resource on the internet with some great information for planning trips.
Beautiful. That's Gabby Brondani, our writer and travel correspondent, talking to us about Asia Travel 101.
Babe,
Yeah?
the fridge light finally stopped flickering.
Yeah. I replaced it.
You replaced it?
Mm-hmm.
Like on your own?
Yep.
You know what that means.
Party! Every excuse is a great one when you've got balloons, bubbles, gift wrap, cards, candles, and dress up.
I'm calling it the Fridge Light Festival!
The Crazy Store. Hey, you never know what you might find to have a good party.
At the heart of global conversations shaping our future, Africa's voice is more important than ever. As proud lead sponsor of the B20, the Standard Bank Group is honored to showcase the continent's growth, partnerships, and potential on the world stage. Because driving Africa's growth isn't just our ambition, it's our purpose. Tune in every Monday from 3 p.m. for the Standard Bank B20 In Brief for key insights and updates around the B20. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Of course you could take the lift just one floor up. Or you could grab the new Berry Blue sports drink from Relebogile and get moving. Blue has never tasted so good. Bursting with bold berry flavor, packed with electrolytes and vitamins, and free from colorants. Relebogile sports and power drinks. Let's move.
It's just after 2 o'clock now. Apologies late for the news. I will get the whip out and you can whip me during the news. But right now, it's time for EWN.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. We begin with the latest developments from the East Rand, where Ekurhuleni Mayor Dr. Xhakaza has temporarily suspended a controversial fixed electricity charge after protesting this morning. Xhakaza made the announcement to an angry crowd of Tembisa residents who met his address with jeers and boos. The move follows a day of violent unrest, with hundreds taking to the streets to protest soaring power tariffs. Police fired rubber bullets to clear blockades, while residents retaliated by damaging vehicles, torching tires and hurling stones. The R126 fixed charge will be put on hold until the city returns with a more permanent answer in 14 days. Mungezi Goko reports.
The day began with flames, rubber bullets and rocks as residents blocked roads and police responded with force, leaving at least a dozen people injured. By midday, the crowd shifted to the Rabasoto Community Hall, waiting for Mayor Dr. Xhakaza to explain the way forward. When he finally arrived, the welcome was hostile, but the hundreds present still listened as he announced a concession. The 126 Rand fixed electricity charge, which has been at the heart of the unrest, will be suspended with immediate effect.
So we can go ahead and engage Eskom and NERSA so that this tariff structure can be understandable. But in the meantime, we will suspend the fixed charge temporarily of 126 Rand.
Xhakaza told residents the municipality will return in 2 weeks with a final plan after further discussions with stakeholders. Mungezi Goko, Eyewitness News, Tembisa.
We move to the courts where the mother of slain 11-year-old Jaden Lee Meek is continuing her bid for bail in the Roodepoort Magistrates Court today. Tiffany Meek wants to be released, arguing that she's being framed for her child's murder. The state is opposing bail, saying it would not be in the interest of justice for Meek to be released. The investigating officer took to the stand today, providing some details of the evidence gathered. Jaden Lee Meek's body was discovered after his mother claimed he failed to return home from school in May. The investigating officer has testified that witnesses say when Jaden's body was found, there were no signs of life.
Male person said he felt the pulse of the child. There was no pulse. When he felt the head was cold. This guy also said the same thing that was said by the security guard, that the child was not moving. There were no signs of life.
Staying in the courts, the Western Cape High Court has set aside dates in August to hear applications for leave to appeal the convictions and life sentences of Kelly Smith, Jacquina Polis and Stefano van Ryn related to the disappearance of Jocelyn Smith. Smith, Polis and van Ryn are serving life sentences after being found guilty of kidnapping and human trafficking. The National Prosecuting Authority previously confirmed attorneys for the three convicts filed notices to appeal the High Court's ruling and sentences. Carla Peterson has more.
Attorneys for Kelly Smith, Jacquina Polis and Stefano van Ryn filed the notices to appeal presiding Judge Nathan Erasmus's ruling and sentences barely a week after he made his ruling in May this year. Erasmus sentenced the trio to life behind bars plus an extra 10 years after finding them guilty of kidnapping and human trafficking. NPA spokesperson Eric Ntabazalila confirms the 12th and 13th of August have been set aside for the application for leave to appeal hearing.
All three accused filed their papers challenging both the conviction and sentence. The NPA will oppose the applications as we are confident that there are no prospects of success.
Judge Erasmus will also decide the fate of former accused and state witness Laurentia Lombard on the 13th of August. Both matters are set to be heard at the Western Cape High Court in Cape Town. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
Still in the courts, there's been yet another delay in the Senzomewa trial. This time, it's linked to cushion pads on leg irons worn by the accused. One of the accused, Mtobi Simngube, was delayed after refusing to be brought to court without the cushions on his legs, saying he was in pain. The trial was meant to resume today with the state's case. When proceedings started this morning, Mngube was the only accused who was not in the dock. When he was later brought in, correctional service officials told the court that he had to be carried. When addressing the court, Advocate George Baloy said he was informed that the decision was made by a Correctional Services Area Commissioner after an escape at the Bavianspoort prison. We'll have more details on the story in our later bulletins. And in the US, immigration attorneys have bemoaned the conditions of 3 Florida facilities, saying prisoners are treated inhumanely. This follows a report published today that found that migrants at Miami Immigration Jail were shackled with their hands tied behind their backs and made to kneel and eat food from styrofoam plates. At the Chrome North Service in West Miami, female prisoners were made to use toilets in full view of men being held there, and they're being denied access to showers and adequate food. And at a Broward Transitional Center in Pompano Beach, detainers were routinely denied adequate medical or psychological care. The attorneys say the documented abuses reflect the inhumane conditions inside federal immigration facilities. They say they have worsened since Trump's January inauguration and subsequent push to ramp up detentions and deportations. Gold's trading at $3,375.94 an ounce. The rand's at 17.71 to the dollar, at 23.87 to the pound, at 20.66 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $69.16 a barrel.
Well, at this stage, if you are heading into the Joburg CBD bumper-to-bumper traffic, this is on Main Reef Road between Anderson and Church due to faulty traffic lights. There's also traffic lights not working in Edenville and Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck. And there's slow-moving traffic in Nooit Gedacht. This is on the N14 westbound heading towards Soweto. There's slow-moving traffic approaching the R512, that's Malibongwe Drive.
A look at your weather. It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng. Today, temperatures are currently peaking at highs between 16 and 18 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour, Ekurhuleni Mayor Dr. Xhakaza has temporarily suspended a controversial fixed electricity charge after protests this morning.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. 702.
We're listening to you. 702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
It's 9 minutes past 2. Good afternoon to you. It's Kabazela standing in for Relebogile Mabotja this afternoon. And she is away the whole week, so I will be with you. And thank you very, very much for tuning in and joining me and interacting on the show. Really, really appreciate all your thoughts and comments that you send in every day when I stand in. Because, when I at the beginning of this week, I get very anxious about doing this. So when I see you responding, it makes me feel a little bit welcome at home and calm. So thank you very much for that. Listening to the news there with Maki Malapo and the Ekurhuleni Mayor, Dr. Nakaza, has temporarily suspended the controversial fixed electricity charge of 126 Rand per month that was recently introduced. And it's going to be temporarily delayed or postponed for 14 days until they can find a different solution. So, it's an interesting one. Who ends up paying? What is the reason for this cost? And, there again, responding to things after protests rather than, trying to find ways beforehand and engaging with communities rather than just saying, well, here you go. You got to pay this amount of money. And this is what happened this morning where we had protests, police firing rubber bullets, and a little bit of chaos outside there in Ekurhuleni. But we'll see what they come back with and the way forward and in terms of what will be paid, if anything.
Parenting and Parents
on 702.
So Parenting and Parents, this is a regular feature that they have on this show every Monday. And today we're going to be talking about generation connection, which is becoming a crisis. Now, do you feel that you can't connect with your child, or have you noticed that they communicate completely different to the way you did when you grew up? So today's children are growing up in a completely different environment, and the gap between generations has never been wider. This isn't just about tech, it's a deeper disconnect playing out in our homes, in our schools, and across society. And experts call this a generation connection crisis, where kids feel misunderstood, teachers feel overwhelmed, and parents feel completely out of touch with their children. They don't know how to speak to them or communicate with them. So with technology shaping communication and culture shifting rapidly, old methods of parenting and teaching often fall a little bit short. So joining me now in studio to unpack this whole situation is Marco Stavru, the founder and CEO of GenLink. Marco, good afternoon to you and thanks very much for coming through.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan. I see Rele is living her best Gen Z life in Paris.
She is indeed. I think it's part of her 40 things before 40. So she's sipping on the champagne there by the Eiffel Tower. Very, very good luck to her. But we are here and we're taking care of things back home. So let's get into this, Marco. It's a very interesting topic, and it's something that I've noticed as well. I mean, I don't have kids, but I've noticed that, the way that the youngsters are communicating with each other are completely through digital means. So they could be in the same room, but they'll be talking to each other on whatever app or, game that they are playing, instead of saying, hey, Stav, look at this. Have you seen this on my phone? They communicate via the chat platforms in their devices. And this is leading to interpersonal skills that are becoming problematic for these youngsters. Let's call them teens, which will, when they hit later life, adulthood in the workplace, they're going to find some difficulties. So let's talk about the generation connection crisis.
Yeah.
What is it?
So let's quickly look at, I like to speak about, all these fancy terms, Gen Z, millennials, and what does it all mean? But essentially, the people group you're speaking about is anyone born after 1995. And as you're saying that, you're absolutely right in the sense that from these what I call generational defining moments. So the internet was one, 2008 crash was another, COVID-19 was another. Their minds and their brains actually started changing. So it was called the Great Rewiring. And what happened was that we went from parents being an open, free play-based childhood to a very overprotective one. And then these kids were being kids, including myself, being on technology. I mean, in our recent research paper, we asked how many hours you spend on social media, and 70% of the respondents said over 5 hours just on social media.
A day, 5 hours on social
5
media.
hours in a day, right? And so what's happened is the in-person time that we're actually getting to engage and go through hardship and fight. I mean, if you think back to your childhood, the stuff that you would get up to in the streets or at school, that's being lost now.
Yes.
And so that's affecting young people's mental well-being and health and the connection we have to each other and to our parents.
So what are some of the problems that we're seeing from this? I mean, is it a massive problem, or is this is the new reality? We got to deal with it because it's not going to go away. It's going to get the technology is just going to develop and develop and develop.
And that's where the big problem stems from, is because if all of our children are on these devices, then you don't want to be the parent or the individual to say, well, you're not allowed that. And then they feel disconnected and not relevant to their friend group. So I think that's where a big part of this all comes back to. If we can just solve for, as a group and as a community, as a school system, as an education system, say no phones, school-free phones, no social media before the age of 16. But if we are all, as young people, on TikTok and we want to stay relevant with our friends, then of course we're going to spend time there. If we want to go on dates, I mean, I always like to joke and say it takes an average male 200 times to swipe right to get one in-person date.
Wow.
So even just connection from a romantic point of view and finding ways to connect with people has become so difficult. And that's why we've seen the rise of running clubs and padel and all these different mechanisms that young people are having to go to, because even workplaces are becoming romantic ways to find partners. And we saw this viral sensation with this affair that happened. And I think that is a reflection of the reality of what's happening in the workplace as well.
So if you're listening to this and you've got a comment on how you perhaps deal with it with your teenagers, what was your method, or what have you picked up? I mean, have you picked up a kind of withdrawal or antisocial behavior with your child and their friends? Do they struggle to chat to each other when they are with each other? Or have you kind of said, you know what, from the age of, I don't know, school-going age, from 5 or 6 to 14, you're not getting any phone? And I mean, that comes with its issues as well, because then they'll say like, but mom, dad, so-and-so, they've got phones. I'm the only one in my class who doesn't have a phone, and I'm not online. So, it's such a difficult thing being a parent.
And then you start to
these
say,
days.
well, if my child doesn't have any friends, is it worse? Or this addiction that they've got to social media, and I speak about this concept called social comparison theory, which basically states that young people no longer make decisions based on their own opinions. It's all because what do their friends think? And if we look at influencers and if we look at luxury brands, that's what it's done to us. It's made us try and show up in our best life and have this very superficial, and we're losing the deep meaning and the connection. And that's what happens. I mean, if you even think about failure and risk, I mean, 50% of marriages end up in a divorce now. A lot of young people in our research, they don't believe in marriage anymore. Because what comes with marriage is sacrifice and convenience. And so they don't want to actually commit. And even from an entrepreneurship and a business point of view, a lot of the companies that I work with, all the big corporates, within 2 years, most of their grads are leaving. And it's because, number one, globalization has allowed us to have jobs and have, work anywhere in the world. So now you're competing on a global scale, and even friends. I mean, I know so many young people, they've never met their friends. They do streaming, or they're speaking online, and they've never met their friends, and they're gaming, and they're actually happy people. But when it comes to their physical, emotional EQ and going through real realities of the world, they really, really struggle.
So, I mean, can we blanket everybody in terms of, this generation connection crisis that is in the generation that we spoke about, the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas? How are some people getting it right and others not getting it right? So there's that balance between having the phones, being on these platforms, doing things, playing sports, etc., etc. So how do you get that balance right?
So what's super interesting is we know from research that people who are religious and people who are married are actually happier. And that's a proven stat and research. And so what's interesting is if we look at like communities like, Cape Town and Stellenbosch and even certain schools, they're getting a lot of their dopamine and growth and learning from that, which is so, so important. I think I worry for the children. I mean, even in, we look at townships, a lot of those kids are happy. They've got this connection to their family because they need to survive. But because of the disconnect within families, what I'm seeing is that people are so isolated and so individualized that they don't know where to go to get help. And so I think those communities are so, so important. If you're not in a community, whether that's a running club or padel or university, and you solely isolate, relying on these superficial friendships, then you're going to really, really struggle. So I think that's super important.
Yeah. Parenting styles, have parenting styles changed since the onslaught of technology? I mean, you go out to a restaurant, or I flew back now recently from a long distance trip, and the kid in front of me for the 4-hour flight was on that iPad for the whole flight. And then I'll see the chair start rocking, right? And then I'd see the mother look at him, and he was having like real temper tantrums because of the game that he was playing. So not really understanding how he needs to manage his emotions. And then you go to restaurants, and then you see for the whole period that the parents are at the restaurant, the child is on the iPad watching a film or playing a game, then eating his chips or his little Viennas on the side, whilst the meal is there, but constantly glued to the screen. What is the impact that this is having, if any?
Yeah, that's a real addiction. And it's so hard because if you look at play dates, so what play dates used to be is two kids would come together and we would literally just do anything in the house. We would go play Ding Dong Ditch. We would play with the dogs. We would make our own games. Now, the games have been designed for us. So if we look at, for example, like Roblox, 350 million young people play every single month Roblox globally. And when now you go look at play dates, all the kids want to do is go on TikTok and play Roblox together. And so this delayed gratification, so what you're talking about in the plane, where this kid literally, if he's not on this phone, he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah.
Or if he's at a restaurant, they don't know how to actually just sit and color in or engage with each other. And again, it's come because it's happening more in schools, it's happening more after school, and they literally can't self-regulate. And so I think to combat that, it's as a communities, we need to say at school, no phones. After school, how do we create environments that are not, first thing they want to do is, are you at school and what are you wearing and who you dating? And then you take out your phone and, you make that the first thing. But back to my point about the great rewiring, where Jonathan Haidt, this researcher, speaks about how young people's brains actually physically changed from these devices and from this overprotective parenting. I think in South Africa, we're actually lucky that I don't find it as bad. When I go to London and I go to the States, it's way, way worse. But I think just because of a few years behind when it comes to technology, we at least have got some boundaries in place. But I just see it increasing from an anxiety and depression point of view massively. And it's very, very concerning.
So these youngsters are deeply connected. They've got the connections online, but we're seeing high rates of unhappiness, high rates of depression. Why are they in this connected world so lonely, so depressed?
Well, I think that it's not deep connection. What it is, it's this isolated connection where they think that they're engaging because they're FaceTiming or WhatsApping. But actually, until you actually go through hardship, if you think about some of your best friendships, Jonathan, it's the people that you've gone through tough things with that know you, not just from a surface level point of view and when life's going well. And I think that is, there's Jeffrey Hall, he speaks about how to spend, to go from someone to an acquaintance is 50 hours, and then to go from someone in person to a deep friendship is 200 hours. So I don't think kids are getting even close to 200 hours outside of school environments with their friends, and even university students and adolescents. And so I think that's really, really important, is to try and prioritize this connection in workplaces. Like workplaces, what they're doing now is they're saying, after work, we're giving you these communities, whether that's padel, whether that's, yoga, and go out and get connection. We want you to off
With
the screen.
employees,
With
with the
employees.
employees, yeah.
Organizations are actually pushing them to do this because they're just getting stuck at work and on these screens. If you're on your screen the whole day at work, then you're going home, Netflix. I mean, I as much as I love like these delivery 60/60s and all this, it's really bad for kids because what do? They don't want to go out and organize with friends and go to the cinemas and wait in lines, and all of those things are massive EQ skills. Whereas if you're just sitting at, you order your food in, you go Netflix, you change series, you don't even watch the end of the series, you just skip to the end of the series. All of those things, like I see my friends and I see young people, they struggle to organize things. No one knows how to organize anything anymore.
And impatient. Are they not impatient because everything is instantaneous?
Absolutely.
You want to know an answer, you pull it up. You want to do this, you pull it up on the phone. So if you're listening now to myself and with regards to this conversation, do let us know what your thoughts are. Have you experienced this with your children? Have you noticed maybe a disconnect with them? Maybe they're withdrawn because they're constantly on their phones. And how do you get them off their phones? What do you do that helps change their behaviors? And that, Marco, that leads me to the next question, right? So where do you start to make subtle changes?
Yes.
So you can't just say, no, no more phone, you're done.
Yes.
They're going to melt down, a complete meltdown. So where do you go with doing subtle little changes?
I think it's also a mindset thing to actually really get young people to understand the effects of it and not to see it as, why do I have to be off my phone, mom and dad? But actually, I want to be off my phone. I want to go outside and play and engage with my friends. I want to organize things. So I think that's a framing that needs to change. And I think parents, unfortunately, just where we are, especially in South Africa economically, it's so tough just to survive. So parents are working 2-3 jobs.
Yeah.
They're not even getting to see their children, And so when they do, all they want to do is make them happy and relax. And they don't want, high stress and that. So I think, unfortunately, as families, we need to try and allocate more time just to connecting and just everyone being off the phone because we're all addicted, It's not only Gen Z and young people. It's across the board that our minds are constantly thinking about these devices and what's happening with the phone. And so I think, just prioritizing time off the screens, but then also getting friend groups where we come into agreement and say, when we do this play date, we're going to have all these activities, we're going to limit the cell phones, and as much as they're going to play Roblox, which is amazing, and they're going to do Nintendo Switch and gaming, which of course they love and they enjoy, and in some ways it's good for them, that we're going to prohibit it and limit it. And I think it also starts in the schools, as I've mentioned multiple times. And so I think, those are some ways to combat it. But what my biggest thing is that young people would want to be off the phone.
Yeah.
So if I think about, I reflect on my screen time, and I'm like, that's not okay, Marco. We need to go out.
Really? How did I spend 3 hours on my phone?
Or exactly. How did I watch these Netflix series instead of listening to podcasts? But the to also combat that is globalization has been so good for young people. If I think about my journey at 21 years old and having this business and having investors, it all came from social media. It all came from this exposure. Back in the day, you wouldn't have the flexibility to work anywhere around the world and to build a business with limited capital and resources. And so it's been so good. So it's also the narrative that I want to push is let's use these tools.
Exactly. It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, exactly. Let's use these tools in amazing ways. But at the same time, if we're seeing someone that's highly depressed and suicidal, then we got to say no,
Okay, 011 883 0702. That's the line to call in. Koketso from the East Rand. Good afternoon to you, Koketso.
Yes, hi guys.
Hi.
I hope you're well.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with everything that you said, and I've also noticed with my daughter, she's nearly 3. So what I've done now, I've just cut down her screen time during the week, and she doesn't get any screen time, whether it be TV or tablet or phone, and it makes a big difference. The only time she'll get screen time is over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, but she doesn't get any screen time during the week because I noticed that it's almost like their minds can't handle it. They can't handle the everyday exposure. So you need to also just limit it. So now what I do for her now, when she gets back from crash, I just put on music for her. I'll put on maybe classical music in the background or music that she likes in the background while she's playing with her toys. And I noticed that, since I've been doing it now, she doesn't even ask for the TV anymore, or she doesn't ask for tablets anymore. She's almost disconnected from that. So I think parents need to really make sure that they really limit it, particularly during the week if you want them to sort of, have focus at school and not be temperamental, because there is something about the screen time that is linked to them being very temperamental. And I don't know what it is, but they really do get like that, So whether they're watching YouTube Kids and then you filter the content, you make it age appropriate for them, like kids under 4. But there's something about that content and the way it's curated that just makes them very temperamental. So if you sort of want to see, them sort of not be as temperamental, reduce their screen time a lot, and you need to be very aggressive with it. At first, they're really fighting you because they're addicted to the screen.
Yes,
but
yes.
after like a week or two, they get weaned off them, and then they actually learn to start existing without them. So I would encourage parents to sort of look at doing that. Like, don't just say. And you also need to wean yourself off, because we've also now gotten to a point where in the evenings you can't switch on the TV like we used to and just sit there and watch it. You need to now do other things.
Yeah. I mean, you make such a good point. Is to try and encourage this behavior from an early age. And set these boundaries, fit the habit. This is it. This is the window that you have. Then you got to do other things as well. So,
Jonathan, I always say to parents, like, do you allow your 12 or 13-year-old daughter to just go into the bar fridge and take any alcoholic drink and drink it?
Yeah.
And no, you don't.
No.
So why do you allow them to go on something that even has potentially a worse long-term effect with pornography and just social media and all of these different things? You're opening them up to this world. And so I think we just got to look at the severity of what's happening.
Yeah. Koketso, thanks so much. That was a really, really great call and some really good advice there as well. Thanks for your time. That's Koketso from the East Rand. Sure, there's so much more, but the time is not playing with us. So that's Marco Stavro, the founder and CEO of GenLink. Marco, if people want to get more information, see what you do, where can we send our 702 family?
Well, just Marco Stavro on all social media platforms, as a Gen Zer would say, and Marco at genlink.io. If you have any questions, I'm happy to sit and thanks for having me, Jonathan.
Great, Marco. Thanks for joining us. That's Marco Stavro talking to us about the Generation Connection Crisis. Right now, it's time for EWN, and it's 2:30.
Thanks, Jonathan. Good afternoon. Ekurhuleni Mayor Dr. Xhakaza has temporarily suspended a controversial fixed electricity charge. The 126 fixed charge will be put on hold until the city returns with a more permanent answer in 14 days. Xhakaza made the announcement to an angry crowd of residents a short while ago. The decision was taken following violent protests in Tembisa this morning. Earlier, police fired rubber bullets to clear blockades while residents retaliated by damaging vehicles, burning tires and throwing stones. Residents of the Kennedy Road informal settlement in Durban have started rebuilding after a fire ripped through the area. At the weekend, a large fire destroyed homes, leaving many residents out in the cold. A mother and her 1-year-old child were killed in the blaze. And in South Asia, at least 19 people have died and more than 100 others injured after a Bangladeshi Air Force training jet crashed into a school campus in the capital, Dhaka. Footage of the scene at Milestone School and College in the northern suburb of Uttara shows a huge fire and a thick plume of smoke. The armed forces has confirmed that one of its aircrafts was involved and that the pilot was killed in the crash. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 3 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are heading into Protea Glen, there's slow-moving traffic. This is on the N12 westbound, approaching the R558. There's also slow-moving traffic that's traveling through Melrose, heading towards Sandton. M1 northbound between Ethel Oakland and Corlett Drive. There's slow-moving traffic as well in the Benoni area. That's on Rangeview Road between Dube and Tom Jones. Look out for those faulty traffic lights in Edenville, Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck. Traffic lights also not working in the Randburg area at Mahogany and Malubongo Drive. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
Protest action by some of your pilots. Those flights are going to take off on time, aren't they?
Unfortunately, this morning we have to confirm that there are a number of flights which have to be cancelled as a result of the fact that there were several pilots last night at the 11th hour who did pull out after having confirmed their availability to fly.
Another element of a dispute pertains to the rostering system that you have operating.
Yes, the system that we have implemented is exactly the same as the system available on every other airline in South Africa and most global airlines around the world.
Kirby Gordon is the Chief Marketing Manager for Flies FM.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Whenever you hear deep in the heart and art of jazz, think Sia Makuzeni with the big band, Jasmine Horn, Alun Wad, The Baylor Project, Jose James sings Badu, Umusangare, Esperanza Spalding, Michelle Dugiocello, Elaine, Tezo, Munei, Mondli Ngobo, and many other spectacular icons. Think Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival, 4 stages at the Sandton Convention Center, 26th, 27th and 28th September, and take me there. Book via Ticketmaster.
Rise to the challenge in Climb and Conquer, Betway's latest 50 million rand prize giveaway. Climb our leaderboards until 27 July with bets on sports, slots, table, crash games, and more. Earn points for every bet and multiply them by betting every day. Reach for the top spots and stand to drive away in one of 8 brand new cars. Plus, you could win constant cash and bonus prizes. Only at Betway. Terms and conditions apply. Licensed and regulated by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to participate. For gambling counseling, call SARGF on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp 076 675 0710.
From 24 to 27 July, Decorex Joburg returns to the Sandton Convention Center, now spanning 5 halls. Explore over 300 brands, shop exclusive show specials, and discover the latest in interiors, kitchens, bathrooms, and luxury finishes. Experience live interactive demos, expert-led talks, and the Handmade Africa Design Market. There's something for every style, space, and home. Book your tickets now at decorex.co.za or at the door.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
On the next Money Show, Mbali and Hlapo joins us as our special How I Make My Money guest. She's a renowned housekeeper and cleaning influencer known for her cleaning tips and services. Ian Mann, our book reviewer, goes through another fascinating book that you should be reading, Distinguishes, by Professor Sandra van der Merwe. Now at Gibbs, formerly IMD and Imperial College Business Schools. Also, all of the top business news of the day.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Bank, a leading Pan-African bank and proud sponsor of the African Blockchain Report 2024. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Coming up
on 702 Drive with John Perlman.
John Perlman has just walked into the studio, and before we get to chat to John about what exciting stuff is coming up on the show, John, we were talking about this issue of generation connection crisis.
Yes.
And youngsters, teenagers being constantly on their phones and then struggling with their interpersonal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've got grandkids of all various ages. Have you noticed anything like this with them? I mean, how's their communication skills when you go out to a restaurant or go for lunch, et cetera, et cetera? Are they present or are they on their devices?
So I at the moment, John, and good afternoon, everyone. These grandchildren are too young to have phones, or put it this way, their parents have decided not to give them phones, but I think they are still a bit young. By the way, I think a bigger problem is adults on their phones.
Oh, gosh.
That
Yeah.
Well, not a bigger problem, but an equivalently problematic thing is, I mean, you often walk into a restaurant and you'll see 6 people at a table and they're all looking at their phones, and
they're not talking. You're right.
Park that at one side. I think, as grandparents, you're in a slightly different position, but when the children are with us, we have very, very clear rules, and they happen to accord with their parents, that everybody sits at the table, everybody eats together, nobody leaves until at least most of the people are finished.
Okay.
Because I do want to get up and there's a TV on. TV goes off, everything goes off, and we eat.
And chat.
Now, will we be able to sustain this when they are mumbling 14-year-old boys who say, yeah, how was school? No, what? Fine. Because that will presumably come at some point in the future. So ask me in 6 years if my system works.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a good system.
I may not be but I think to me, it's important.
Yeah. Okay, well, 6 years, we'll wait and see how it turned out.
I'll call in.
On the show this afternoon, what can we expect between 3 and 6?
So obviously the Fly SAFS strike is having huge consequences. Some listeners may recall last week we spoke to SAFS Kirby Gordon. He was very confident that they wouldn't have problems. 26 flights cancelled already today. That's a lot.
That is a heck of a lot.
That is a lot
flights,
because if you multiply all the passengers, but then if you multiply all the things they were going to do, that's literally tens of thousands of people affected either directly or indirectly by this. So we'll explore that after 4. Pilots Union Solidarity will come in. SAFA will have their say as well. Public Works Minister Dean McPherson held a press conference over the weekend in regard to the George building collapse. He had a lot to say. There's a lot of information, he says, that comes out that is of huge concern, which I think is not surprising. We'll talk to him after 5 o'clock. How long should our driver's licenses be valid for? That's a debate that's starting to take shape. 5 years is the current number. Government is mooting a possible extension to 8. Outer is calling for 10. And there's upsides and downsides because obviously every time you renew a license, government gets a fee. However, every time they print a license, somebody is busy, plus plastic is being consumed. So there's a cost. And then there's the thing of, particularly as you get older, it's one thing to say, okay, we'll give you 8 years between 24 and 32. It's another thing to say, we'll give you 8 years between 62 and 70. Because stuff happens to your eyesight. And so lots to talk about there as well.
And I mean, also, why can we not make a digital card? That you can have on your phone or something like that. But so much more this afternoon between 3 and 6. That's John Pillman driving you home.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
So no naked scientist this afternoon. He got in touch early this morning and said that he wasn't going to be able to make today's crossing, which we'll miss him, but he'll be back with you next week, same time, same place. And what we're going to look at now is I want you to think back when you were at home and there was a injury and you needed some first aid. So maybe you burnt yourself with some boiling water or some steam from the kettle. You maybe fell down the stairs and you cut your knee open, or you got bit by an insect or stung by an insect. What did you do? Have you got stuff at home to help with those ailments? Have you got anything that you put on to help with the cut, the sting, the itchiness, all that kind of stuff? Because treating these from the start and early can help with healing the body. And on the line, we are joined by Dr. Judy Pretorius, biomedical scientist and founder of Biomedical Emporium. And she's going to chat to us about looking at how to care for burns, for cuts, for bites, and if you get stitches, to properly, look after the stitches. And we'll talk a little bit about the amazing thing that the human skin is and how it rejuvenates itself. But Dr. Judy, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all the listeners.
Yeah, so I asked the question to our listeners in terms of what are the things that you have at home for when something goes wrong, you run straight to the cupboard and you pull out this ointment, this cream, this, bandages, plasters, etc., etc. What do you have in your cupboard? But I wanted to ask you in terms of if one doesn't have a go-to, medicine box or first aid kit, what are some of the things that one should have to treat all of these kinds of ailments?
Well, the definite first thing is if there is some form of injury that take place. Sometimes we have some form of I like to call it a chlorhexidine type of product at home, an antiseptic type of product at home. And I will categorically and explicitly state, please don't use anything antiseptic just yet when you have a new, fresh injury. And what do I mean by that? Sometimes too harsh ingredients, being exposed to a wound is too harsh, and it can ultimately lead to either complexion indifferences. In other words, there's an actual skin discoloration that takes place. Or secondly, their scars or their wound can convert into something a hypertrophic or a keloid scar. So the first thing that I usually recommend people do is to at least quickly boil the kettle of water and make your own salt water solution. And that's, of course, inexpensive, but use that to, clean the wound, because the saltiness of that will help to, it's very gentle on the skin, and it will start, reducing any form of extra moisture on the skin. Mostly when people have a new injury, there's swelling that takes place. We like to refer to it as edema. So there's definitely swelling, and there's a lot of moisture on that wound bed as well. We like to refer to it as exudate. And to kind of stop that process immediately, a salt water type of solution is really effective, and it's also inexpensive. So don't expose any wound to too harsh ingredients immediately, because it can be too hectic for the wound. It can be too intense for the wound to start with, differentiation and proliferation. So something more gentle will be much more effective.
Okay, so I mean, if you said salt water, but what happens if you apply? I remember as a child, mercurochrome, that red solution would be applied on all scrapes and cuts, and then you've got the Dettol antiseptic and the Savlon and all that kind of stuff. Are those too hectic to put on straight away if you've cut yourself or grazed yourself, or do you recommend just sticking to the salt water? I mean, surely there's a place for these things.
Well, I'm thankful you actually mentioned those names, because those ones were the ones that I would refrain from. And I think even mercurochrome is one of the ingredients that is now one of the more inhibited ingredients. Like, you cannot really find it because some of our statutory authorities have stopped the sale of any of those ingredients because of the fact that it's so harsh. And just to put it into perspective a little bit and why this happens is, if you and I have a wound, say for instance, I fall, or there's a little bit of an accident like a hot plate burn at home, or maybe steam from the kettle and so forth.
Yeah.
Every single wound goes through 4 phases of healing. And I'd like to explain that. Is the first phase is the hemostasis phase, which immediately tells you there's a rush and an absolute flux of blood, flowing to a particular area. And so we call it the hemostasis phase, with the emphasis maybe on the red blood cell count in a very particular area where the injury occurred start to increase immediately. And then a second phase is what we call our inflammatory phase. So our inflammation phase physically shows you that there's redness around the wound and there's sensitivity around the wound. So from a sensoric point of view, it's painful because there's inflammation. And then you get a third phase of a wound that refers to a proliferation phase. So basically what that means is our skin gets some form of an injury, and usually we'd like to encourage the skin cells to divide again. In other words, skin cells to divide into 2 cells, into 4 cells, into 8 and 16 cells. So we need some proliferation to take place, and usually wounds heal from the outside in. And the last phase is what we call the remodeling phase. So in the middle layer of the skin, you and I produce collagen and elastin fibers, and it's very, very important that we stimulate the renewal, the synthesis of new collagen and elastin fibers in the skin, because ultimately we don't just want to heal a wound, we want to heal a wound aesthetically. So if we look at very, very a scientific approach to healing a wound, we are not too harsh in the beginning, in that hemostasis phase. And that's why we don't pull in the big guns like you mentioned the Savlons or the Dettols, but basically the main ingredients are the chlorhexidine. It's too intense. Even iodine is too intense for that first phase of healing. So we start to just gently clean the wound with a saltwater solution, or there's even another big word that I'm going to teach the listeners today. We call it hypochlorous acid. So the human body can actually produce its own hypochlorous acid to fight any form of infection and so forth. But the problem is, as we get older, we don't produce it naturally or as much anymore as what we did when we were children. So, but the nice thing is we can make more hypochlorous acid in a laboratory environment. So if there's something that you can keep like in your own little first aid kit, hypochlorous acid would be one of the ingredients that I would recommend that you can spritz directly onto a wound bed and then wait for it to dry and wait for some of the intense inflammation to settle. But then you can also expose your skin or the injured skin to ingredients like, for instance, medicinal honey and zinc. Zinc are typically the same ingredients that you even find in nappy baby bum cream to help babies with diaper rash.
Like bepanthen and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, yes, absolutely, like zinc. You can even find beautiful ingredients like vitamin E. Now, vitamin E at a very high concentration ultimately becomes a very, very powerful antioxidant because at that point in time, your skin has been exposed to oxidative stress. And also things like that you find in aspirin. Some of the main ingredient in aspirin is like acetylsalicylic acid. You can even take some of this salicylic acid at low concentrations and put it in a wound care product. So these ingredients are not the world's most harshest ingredients, but it's very gentle. It will not only occlude the skin, but it will facilitate the control of the amount of inflammation on the wound bed. It will reduce the redness and the sensitivity, and all of those inflammation that I just mentioned, it will settle down. And what I like is, you remember when you and I were in school, our teacher told us about osmosis, the process of osmosis.
Yeah.
And the definition of osmosis is when something goes from a higher concentration through a permeable membrane to a lower concentration. And basically, if you design a wound care product like this, where in the beginning there's swelling and there's, like we call it, the exudate, the moisture on the wound bed and so forth, and the only way to remove some of that extra exudate and transudate, that moisture from the wound, is to apply a product that will help you by means of the process of osmosis pull off all of that exudate, that moisture on the wound bed, and transfer it maybe into like a secondary wound dressing, like an absorptive bandage, for instance, to remove that completely, to facilitate the process of healing and ultimately allowing that wound to go through all 4 phases of healing and to stimulate not only wound healing but aesthetic wound healing. It prevents skin discoloration and it also prevents hypertrophic and keloid scars.
Okay, so just remind us again, you said it was hypochlor. What was that product you said?
It is called hypochlorous acid.
Chlorous acid.
So, and you will see, if many people, you get many brands out there of hypochlorous acid, and you will find that it's actually very inexpensive as well. It's very affordable, and I really recommend people getting some of this for their homes.
Yeah, and does hypochlorous acid work with bites and stings as well, or is it purely on wounds, like open wounds and scrapes and scratches?
It's my absolute best for insect bites, mosquito bites, and so forth, because it settles. It allows that irritation, that elevation of the skin, the redness, the sensitivity, the tingling effect. It just subsides immediately with a product like this.
Yeah.
You know, earlier on, I told some of our students that I have twins. And unfortunately, when they were much younger, I took them for swimming lesson, and they got pink eye at the swimming school.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult because of their age, when I got the eye drops from a pediatrician, to put eye drops in my young baby's eyes because it just didn't allow me.
Yes.
And then I took the hypochlorous acid, and every single time when they would quickly maybe run past me, I say, "Open your eyes, look at me," and then I'll spritz a little bit of a hypochlorous in their eye physically. And it doesn't sting. It's safe for young children. Even if you have a little bit of a a throat infection and the voice is starting to get a bit husky during now the winter conditions, nothing stops you from even spritzing the hypochlorous acid in your throat. It's safe for oral consumption. It is safe for, your general skin insect bites or redness, inflammation. Even if you struggle with a little bit of eczema, some form of atopic dermatitis, rosacea even, the redness of the skin, the hypochlorous acid will even work wonders for that as well.
Wow, brilliant. So that's hypochlorous acid. Definitely going to
Yes.
go get some this week. Doc, some of the calls and WhatsApps coming through. Let's take a listen to our WhatsApp quickly.
Good afternoon, guys.
Afternoon.
Believe it or don't, I've got this remedy. Whenever I burn myself with something, a kettle, oven, something, I rush and I take toothpaste and I put toothpaste on it. It relieves the burning pain immediately and leaves almost no scar. I believe in that diligently, and I've used it with success in the past. Theo Pretoria.
Sure. Doc, what do you think about toothpaste for burns?
Okay, well, I'm going to start with even my grandmother came with very good DIY remedies, that I even still use today. But as a scientist, my approach is definitely different now. And what this gentleman experienced, one of the main ingredients in toothpaste is known as xylitol, right? So the nice thing about xylitol is sometimes when people have a bacterial infection, we call it biofilm. It's typically wounds that don't want to heal quickly. It goes into a bit of a static state, and many people struggle with wounds for long periods of time. It just doesn't want to heal. Then usually it's indicative of the fact that there's some form of biofilm, like a planktonic type of bacteria growing on the wound bed. And if you expose xylitol, one of the main ingredients in toothpaste, on a wound like that, then you are definitely going to see some changes. But my problem with toothpaste now, the moment when you work with wounds, the first rule of thumb is we don't want to expose a wound necessarily to fragrances and dyes and colorants and these type of things. So there would be, definitely there would be colorants in a wound. So I would like to, work on the rule of elimination, which ingredients can ultimately cause unnecessary irritation on the skin or a stimulant to the skin or even an allergen to the skin, because we cannot expose people's wounds unnecessary to allergens, irritants, or stimulants. So colorants, fragrances, dyes, even the wrong preservative systems can have an effect on the overall healing. And then we also have to remember you get different types of wounds. We get burn wounds that can be different depths of the skin. You get the superficial, you get the partial thickness and the full thickness. You get electrical wounds, you get hot water wounds, you get sting wounds like we just talked about. So ultimately, if we don't necessarily know the characteristics of every single type of wound and also the phase that wound is in, it's better to rather make use of products that at least been evaluated by some form of a statutory authority, like in South Africa, SAPRA, the Health Products Regulatory Authority, to categorically prove safety, efficacy, and quality. And the nice thing is then it's formulated in such a sense that it contains your medicinal honeys, it contains your zinc, it contains your hypochlorous acid, it contains your xylitol. So it's a very busy type of formula product, but at least when you apply a product like that on your skin, then you know it's free of colorants, dyes, and it can address all sorts of bacterial concerns. Because if people struggle with infection on the wounds, it's typically like your Pseudomonas infection or your biofilm infection, sometimes even Klebsiella and so forth, or your Streptococcus type of infection. So at least you know if you have a wound care product that can, work on all that type of bacterial and even fungal type of colonies that can grow on a wound, it's going to be effective enough to debride the wound, clean the wound, and facilitate aesthetic healing.
Doc, last one, and if you could be brief, in terms of scarring, what are some of the things that we should do to prevent scarring after we've experienced a wound?
My answer is going to be easy. Moisture, moisture, moisture. Many people struggle with a lot of scarring because of the fact that the skin is too dry. There's not enough occlusiveness. So I like to explain to people, yes, now that we've healed your wound, don't stop there. A wound actually takes, even if it's a small wound and a big wound, it can take up to 100 days to heal properly. So even though it looks like the injury is better now and it doesn't require full-time attention or dressing changes and so forth, after that we would like to make sure that we make sure that the skin is nice and moist. So then apply products like hyaluronic acid containing products, nice thick and rich moisturizers like ingredients like urea, for instance. But just make sure the skin is hydrated and moisturized enough, because then you'll start to see repigmentation taking place and also no formation of any keloid scars. That is very, very critical to prevent scars.
Brilliant. That's Dr. Judy Pretorius. She is a biomedical scientist and founder of the Biomedical Emporium. Once you got the scar, moisture, moisture, moisture.
Dear Journal, day 3049 of trying to be an adult. I still haven't bought a recycling bin, so there's a mountain of cans in my kitchen that could collapse at any moment. Anyway, what's that saying about your home being a reflection of your mental state?
Got evicted from the family home? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
We love rating things, our phones, our cars, but our health? Your health lets you do what you love with the people you love. So who are you staying healthy for, and how can you improve your health? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding, longer life with regular health checks. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guard Risk Life, a licensed life insurer FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct, to give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
It's Kabazela in for Relebogile. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. And we'll do it again for tomorrow and the rest of the week. Right now, it's 3 o'clock. We'll chat later.
This is EWN.
Ekurhuleni Mayor suspends fixed electricity